everybody. Jimmy with the Triple C Collective and
Collin.
And we are ready to bring you X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 4, Motendo / Lifedeath, Part 1.
Yep.
And let me tell you, when we first saw like the episode kind of list of the whole season, like I'm pretty sure like relative within the first like week or two kind of leading up to it, right before the first episode premiere, like we got all of those. I remember seeing this and I was like, wow, that's really weird. Like what are we getting in this kind of episode? And I've got to say, like, for these, like the first 3 episodes so far that we've had have been very kind of like nostalgia driven. Like specifically those first 2 were very heavily like kind of paving the way of like building that bridge from the original series to like now, and then like kind of pushing the story forward. Not saying that we didn't get new stuff, like the whole Madeline Pryor stuff in episode 3, you know, previous here, and like the Goblin Queen, like that was really great. And that was like really the kind of kickoff, I would say, to like the new stuff of what's going on here.
The creator of the show said the old show is pre 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like, so this show is, you know, gonna deal with heavier stuff. There's gonna be some long wounds felt from this show. But yeah, this one especially was starts off pretty nostalgic. I mean, Motendo, you clearly know that's some kind of Nintendo reference.
Right, it's some video game system or something,
right,
or whatever.
And even before I saw this episode, I asked my friend, because he's like, it's like, he was describing the episode to me and he couldn't really describe it, and I'm like, is it Mojo? And he's like, yeah, actually. I'm like, sick, because Mojo's like honestly one of the coolest like looking characters. Like, he's so creepy looking for like how like whimsical it seems. He's got like these wires that are pulling back his eyes, and he's got these cables connected to his head which link up to his like spider like mech legs that he uses to walk around. And he's this kind of blobbiest figure who's like, I think he's from a race called the Spineless Ones. Anyway, so he just rules over this world called the Mojo world, which we'll get into later. But yeah, anyway, the episode starts off with Gambit like kind of getting some coffee for Rogue, and Magneto's already like, I already got
it. And then here's the like cream and sugars like and everything.
Whatever, yeah. Yeah, so the X-Men are kind of just eating breakfast, and they're having a conversation about what they're about to do today. Magneto's like, we need to train, and in the danger room, we need more training. And Beast and Wolverine kind of, they're like, but it's Jubilee's birthday. We need to at least celebrate. It's her 18th. It's kind of an important one. Let's maybe do something. And this is kind of like a funny part, because Magneto's disagreeing, and Morph kind of attempts to break his balls at this point. And he's like, look, it looks like someone's daddy didn't get him a pony for his Sweet 16, which Magneto like grimly responds back with, my parents perished when I was a child.
Right? Like, oof.
Big oof. Jubilee comes in and kind of like cuts through everything, and is like, let's go to the arcade.
Yeah, and let's go to like the mall and stuff and like have fun doing all of that.
Yeah.
And that like her being like, let's go to the arcade at like the mall and stuff was such a like, oh man, I love doing that stuff in the 90s and whatnot.
So yeah, she was just trying to celebrate her 18th birthday in a pretty chill way, which Magneto apparently did not like, because when we go back to the next scene, it's Jubilee complaining to Roberto in her room, like, man, Magneto's a dick.
Yeah, pretty much. And like rightfully so. Like, you're 18, I get it. Like, Magneto is definitely being a party pooper here.
Yeah. He's not necessarily the like that kind of guy. He's not the party type. Anyway, so they're talking, and they find a system like that says Motendo on it, and they're like, oh, Jubilee's like, maybe it's a gift, maybe it's the surprise they were talking about.
Yeah.
And she turns it on, and these like tentacles pull them into the game, basically.
Yeah.
They
enter the gaming verse. It's crazy.
Right. they like respawn into like the room, but it's like clearly not in the mansion as they're pulled out by like the sentinel starts attacking. They're running on the street.
Hmm.
He's like, can you use your powers?" And Roberto's like, "No, what if there's cameras around and my parents see it?" He's just
Right.
using to do anything about it. And then some FOH members come attacking it just as they get away from the Sentinels. And then there's this phone that starts ringing in the alley, basically, and they see it and they answer it, and it's like glitching out, and it like takes them to a new level or
Yeah.
reality in this dimension. And
And this is what I call we're still in the gamer verse now here.
yeah,
After this phone booth like ordeal and everything, though, it's what I call the game verse Genosha is basically where we get,
yeah,
because like we see Jubilee then back when we first see Genosha in the original series, where they're basically kind of enslaved and stuff still, like
right.
being
Yeah,
forced
we
to
see
like,
like Blob doing
yeah,
labor, and like yeah, we see a couple. I think Gladiator was there, but
yeah,
yeah. Anyway, there's definitely some call outs there. It's pretty funny. But
it,
anyway, they're kind of attacked again by some random soldiers, but then this mysterious figure like
a
behind some
Hot
like
Topic stalker.
yeah, the Hot Topic stalker exactly. But she saves them, but is also like behind some like digital barrier that
Mm-hmm.
they can't cross. And then they finally realize they're in a video game, and Mojo finally reveals himself. And again, Mojo's
Mm-hmm.
definitely one of my favorite like obscure villains.
Super obscure. I love that they pulled him though for
So yeah,
this.
he was fun in the original ones because he was like always just used as a way to poke fun at television producers. Like he was created
Mm-hmm.
for that, like to be like an absurd
Yeah,
view as a executive, basically like the X-Men's version of Harvey Weinstein, like taking control and playing his little games with all
yep.
these people because they rely on him or whatever. And
And
he
him,
calls
and him
his
like truly just like not seeing people or other
yeah.
like
No, he
sentient
literally
beings like throughout the universe. Like he doesn't see them as anything other than his pawns to be played with for his entertainment,
yeah,
for
he
his
literally
Mojo
calls himself a
TV and stuff.
psychopath. He's a psychopathic alien who controls this like pocket dimension, which you were calling the gamer verse, which is the Mojo verse. He
Yeah,
like enslaves people, which he calls indentured audiences, which is hilarious to me. Uh,
yeah.
but
So funny.
that was a little fun throwaway line, and they're basically it's basically a digital coliseum centering around entertainment. Which
Yeah,
the original series it was mostly like TV and stuff like this, but this one it's video games
right.
and
Because it's
again,
1997
he's
now.
he's just one of the creepiest
Yeah,
villains. He's got that Clockwork Orange face, like but he did lose some weight. It seems like as gluttonous as he is as and disgusting as he looks. Jubilee even comments like, "Where have you been dieting?" And he's like, "Yeah, I lost weight from getting some nips and tucks.
yeah.
He got surgery basically." Like, and yeah, that makes sense for a character based on an alien race from the spineless ones. Anyway,
Right.
Mojo kind of tells Jubilee what's going on. He's going to use this game to kind of capture the demographic of 18 to 45, which is clearly a reference to X-Men, to like the audience too. Like
Hmm.
this whole beginning of this episode is tongue in cheek like
Hmm.
reference to the audience, like for
Yep.
sure. And yeah, and if they die in the game, they die in real life type stuff. But if they play the game forever, they could stay young, and you could be 18 forever. Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And then they get like kind of pulled into like, when got the audience, his indentured
Yeah.
audience. They're watching a X-Men game called the X-Men: The Rise of Jubilee. Based, it looks exactly like the old X-Men games,
Yes. The
and
old,
it
yeah.
was really cool to see this.
I specifically remember those old X-Men games for the Sega.
They're some of the best like games, like
I,
arcade games for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, absolutely. They were just like arcade games that got put onto a console
Yeah,
or whatever, or vice versa.
yeah, because it was
But
cool
I
because you
still
could
have those for
go
the
play with your
Sega,
friend. Yeah, you can
those
go play
side
with your
scrollers.
friends at the arcade because it had
Hmm.
like the four different joysticks. And, yeah,
Absolutely. That was always the
dude,
best.
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the Rise of Jubilee we're in, which is I want to play this game. Uh,
Absolutely.
Jubilee's kind of fighting through the levels, and she's kind of getting through it, but then she runs into Sauron, like a version of Sauron, and kind of starts getting beat bad, and she's losing all of her power when like this mysterious figure again, the Hot Topic Stalker, flashes on the screen
Mm-hmm.
and kind of glitches Mojo World and is able to give Jubilee her health back seemingly,
Mm-hmm.
and Mojo's slaves are just like kind of like boo,
Yeah.
whoa, and then
Ooh.
Mojo's kind of freaking out and he's yelling at Spiral, which is a character we've seen Morph turn into in a previous episode again, which is
Yeah.
callback. He did like patch this bug. You got to patch this bug.
Yeah. What are you doing? We need
Yeah,
this. Like, like we need to not have because what you can tell from all of this is that Mojo has dealt with this said person before. Like you get that from how he's talking to Spire and everything of being like, you need to do this, you need to get rid of her.
I thought
Like,
you like dealt with this basically. Like this
yeah.
bug is definitely something they've dealt with before.
Well, because then so like Roberto is able to heal Jubilee in the game, which is like that first glitch that shows up. Then Roberto in another battle basically gets knocked out and has the like red flashing light over him of like the dying thing and like the
Yeah.
classic video game thing of the
So Mojo kind of like levels the playing field after this because
yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, you want to play this game? I'm gonna level the playing field, taking Roberto out. He's not doing much anyway, and you're not gonna like him dying anyway. So Magneto's kind of the character that she's got to go against, who and she figures the pattern out because like in any video game, there's just a pattern you got to follow and beat it. She figures it out pretty quickly, takes him out, goes over to Roberto. It's like I don't know what to do, but sees an extra life.
In a
So
destroyed like desk, which is
yeah,
awesome.
again, wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah,
Mojo's
because
not happy
Mojo's like,
about
what
it.
is this going
Yeah, yeah.
on? He's all
That's it.
freaking out and stuff.
That's
Like,
it.
he's
Yeah,
so
so Matt, this is when like Magneto kind of grabs Jubilee and Roberto and pulls them into another level, basically outside of
yeah.
Mojo's view for now. And it's that mysterious figure kind of glitched the system out to hack and get Jubilee out of there.
Hot Topic Stalker.
Yeah, so it turns out pretty quickly we figure out as they repeat the same sentence that they're the same person. That
Yeah.
they have the same mannerisms, and yeah, it's Jubilee as
You
a
find out it's the future Jubilee
yeah,
or like an
a
older
digital
Jubilee.
copy of Jubilee who's
Yeah.
gotten older because she's been a part of this system for a long time. She
Right.
was built in a beta system Mojo created to test Roberto and Jubilee coming into this world, and she was the best one. She's lived the longest, and since she survived, she was able to kind of figure out the system and
Yeah.
hack the game. So she's able to kind of travel throughout and
Well, and it's great because this is how they brought back the original voice actress for Jubilee to play Jubilee again because the
I thought
original
it was a
voice
good
act
match with the torch.
like well to be fair like the original voice actress was like like an actual person of Asian descent should voice Jubilee now. Like it was one I love doing it in the 90s and stuff, but now like we should do this the right way and like do that. So like that was a great way of like her being willing to like step back and stuff, but then them being like, well, no. Like you're still a part of this, and this is how we like give that fan service back because like all of this is fan service to one degree or another.
Yeah,
Like,
especially this episode because it's really
right.
like I said, a wink and a nod at the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So like even this kind of like this part especially, where older Jubilee's kind of telling our like younger Jubilee that and the audience that although it's comfortable to like try and hold on to the past, that like it's not living. You got to move on. You got to be willing for change, and you got to be ready for it. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
life's just going to happen to you type of messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really kind of a good message to get across, especially to an audience who expects the old X-Men show.
Right.
When you should be happy to be getting something new.
Right. And then so like they had this really great breakthrough moment here of future Jubilee, who I was calling the Hot Topic Stalker, And you know, our main girl, mainline, Jubilee, and this was great. I love that whole like heartfelt moment and stuff. But I do also love on how Mojo then, like, because they stayed in one place a little too long,
Yeah.
and Mojo's able to find him, and he comes like ripping through there, and he's like, "I found you,
The
you
way he rips
cheaters and
through,
stuff."
he
Um,
comes through the original arcade game of the X-Men. He rips
mm-hmm.
through that game and comes into the world as the final boss. And this is cool because it goes between like the pixelated version to the version we know at
Mm-hmm.
the fight. And first, the older Jubilee takes her shots. You know, Roberto finally steps up to the plate, takes
Yep.
his shots, and then 18-year-old Jubilee goes ahead and ends it for everybody.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much immediately transported out of the game as they beat Mojo.
Yeah, I mean, even when they get launched out of there, you see like the Motendo set that was like placed there by Mojo and stuff is all melted and like destroyed. Like
Yep.
they beat it. They won.
Yeah.
They won their freedom and stuff. Um, and then of course Jubilee and Roberto make out, and it's a beautiful little thing. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
You,
Great for them.
you gotta
Love it
dig
for
it.
them, actually. But I love this episode, dude. Like, or this part of this episode, because that's the thing.
But
We're not even done with this episode
I
yet.
was gonna say this was definitely cool because Jubilee kind of did go through a learning experience in this
Mm-hmm.
episode. She, at the end of the episode, before they make out, there's kind of a moment between them that like Jubilee's cognizant of the fact that she just put their lives at risk just to like have fun for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and how crazy that actually is. And Roberto's like, the risk was worth it, and that's when they make out. But like, yeah, the episode really did, as much of a maybe filler you thought this part might have been, but it really was a wink and a nod at the audience, and it was a chance for Jubilee to grow up a little bit.
Yeah,
It,
it,
the,
it, it was great, and then
yeah,
this part was awesome.
and also introduces again when we get to the second part, two basically romances going on in this episode, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
first starts with this like more teenage romance, and then gets into Storm and Forge in the second part.
In the second
Part
half of
one, the second
yeah,
act of part one of Life Death,
yeah, the
and
second half of this episode, but part one of Life Death,
yeah,
which is
Storm
great.
and Forge. We
Yeah.
get back to them. They're sharing a meal in like this cabin out in the wilderness, out in like the desert.
Uh-huh.
They're talking about Charles Forge's mutant powers, being able to, make anything he wants, basically being able to invent any technology. And he suggests they go for a ride. And they're like out on the desert now, riding horses.
Mm-hmm.
They start racing. Storm seems to really be enjoying herself. But they race right to the edge of a cliff, which
And like Storm almost like flies right off, almost like goes right off
pretty
that thing with that
metaphorical.
horse.
Pretty metaphorical to how she like was living her life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyway, she's kind of just stopped and noticing this owl that's been kind of circling around them in the area, and she just
Mm-hmm.
mentions that. And then they go back to the cabin to Forge's lab, and she enters some like kind of device that he's clearly worked on to get her powers back. But outside, she tries and it don't work. Uh, she didn't.
Well, so there's a couple of things here. Like they talk about for this lab and for the procedure here that the idea isn't to match like the radiation or anything. The idea is to try and drain that radiation out of there to try and like absorb it and suck it out
Mhm.
in that sort of sense. So like that was cool and it was awesome because like what you also see from Forge is that he's got missing limbs, and that's part of what he was able, like
Be able
that's
to
part
fix
of like
himself.
his creations and stuff, is that not only was he able to like help other people make um different weapons or different create different technologies and stuff, he was also able to kind of sort of put himself back together in not so many ways as well. um but yeah, dude, when we see Storm reach out to try and feel the winds and nothing happens, man, like
Sad. Yeah, she's really feeling it in this episode. She even starts crying. Forge is it's a good thing that Forge is there. But
Mhm.
they, get to a point where he has to admit what why like he's so guilty maybe feeling about this because he was hired by the government to create a device that would basically neutralize mutants, which led to this collar, which led to the gun that
Mhm.
ended up shooting Storm and taking her powers away.
Mhm.
Um,
And
and
like Forge is like,
it's
so
basically
she's
power
like,
damage.
you made these exact things for me, and he's like, whoa, no, they took my
Early,
rudimentary
yeah,
designs, like my very earliest designs, and then their scientists went running with it. But there is no denying that I was a basis of
right.
this, which is
Which
like,
he's super upset. He doesn't. He's like uses this moment as like I clear my chest. I confess my love to you, and she
yeah.
goes in for the kiss, and she smacks him and leaves.
Mm,
Riding a horse in the rain.
hmm
She's out of there. Storm crashes to the ground though, and then somehow ends back up in the cabin. It's a weird thing.
hmm
And then all of a sudden, this demon owl, like that clearly was that owl watching him this whole episode,
yeah.
this whole part of the episode. She was watching him and comes out and immediately grabs Forge and hits him with some kind of venom, basically.
Yeah, because you start seeing it like take over his like
Yeah,
side, like she
purple. Yeah,
bites him and stuff. Um,
and
yeah,
then just like kind of traps Storm in this like weird space in between space. It seems like
yeah.
or
You
this
get,
horror
well,
space.
like they kind of talk about like a creature demon kind of thing here, and so like you don't really know if I mean, if it is a demon, it's some sort of like demon space or hell space or whatever, long and some idea like that. But like this owl, this creature, this bird is like super scary,
To
and
me, it's very anime.
yeah.
This creature's very anime, like it, and just a lot of this episode, this second half especially, was
And
very anime.
like so it calls itself the adversary,
Yeah,
and here is like one of the last lines. It's like, I the adversary shall not waste my meal. And then we see then it just goes cut to black again,
yeah.
just like at the end of the
It's
Motendo one.
yeah.
And
So this was great because this is based on a comic where Fortune
yeah,
Storm, like it does its own
Chris
thing.
Claremont, Jim Lee. Yeah.
But we don't get a part two next episode, so it kind
No,
of
next episode, I believe the next episode is titled Remember It.
yes. So
Um,
we'll get back to this storyline soon, but it was an excellent storyline. It kind of leaves everybody broken still, maybe more broken than when it
yeah.
started in this. And yeah, maybe it's something. Maybe technology isn't the answer.
No, right? Maybe technology isn't the answer.
Maybe
Um,
Storm's got to go through something here that will wrap itself up in the next episode. But
yeah,
yeah, this was fun from beginning to end. As much of like people want maybe like call it a filler episode, I don't buy
no,
into it as because there's characters that show up that can potentially show up in the future. It was a nice send off for like you said the old actress who played Jubilee. Just
Mhm.
been it just was fun.
It was so good. This episode was great. X-Men 97 has just been awesome.
Yep.
X-Men 97 is doing the stuff on the same level that like Batman the Animated Series did back in
Oh,
the day. Of like where it's being advertised as a kid show, but it's really treating its audience with a lot of respect and being like, no, like these high concept kind of things, guess what? Your kid can handle it. And
it's
like
not just a toy. It's not just a toy commercial, which was
exact which
after
is what's
especially
awesome.
season two of the original. They definitely went hard on just being a toy commercial. Maybe
hmm
it could be a good argument against it, but yeah, it was what we wanted from the original X-Men animated series. As even a kid, you wanted it to be it grow up with you, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, it kind of stayed. It kind of almost regressed, right? So
yeah,
I'm glad it got back to this point, and I'm kind of hoping it sends a message to the rest of Marvel that like good storytelling can get you an audience.
yeah. Right. It's so good. X-Men 97's been awesome. Can't wait
Plus
for
the
episode.
badass fight scenes.
Right? I can't.
I mean,
I can't.
I'll never get over Wolverine getting powered up by Gambit.
Ah, dude, so cool. So cool. Super excited about this. The show has been awesome. It's been such a fun watch. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap up episode 4, Motendo / Lifedeath, part 1 of X-Men 97, season 1. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective. You are
Collin.
and we want to thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe to our video and to our channel. And as always, see ya.